Are you really ready to fuel your success as an investor in your personal mindset and being part of a community that wants every person to succeed? Welcome to the Thriving Investor Podcast with author, educator, successful non-traditional investor, Troy Fullwood. Turn up the volume and let's get you set up to thrive.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Troy Fullwood from the Thriving Investor Show, and today I have a amazing friend, business partner, brother from another mother, Mr. Brian June himself is on our podcast with us today, and I've been excited about doing this because this has been on my list of people that I wanted to bring to the Thriving Investor Show for several months. When we started this whole podcast idea, Brian was at the top of the list, and we've been able to get him onto today's show in his schedule, his busy schedule is that. So, Brian, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I think many of you know me and have had the distinct pleasure of seeing Troy and I actually do many shows together, not the Thriving Investor Show. I'm actually really excited about Troy's new show, and he's doing some amazing things with it. So this is the first time I'm appearing on this show, but of course it's, like Troy said, brother from a different mother. It's certainly not the first time that I've been here. And to the new folks that have never been introduced to me or heard of me, welcome. I'm certainly glad to meet you all.
Well, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So one of the things that I've come to really, really appreciate about my relationship with you, Brian, is I love your passion about topic matters. And what I mean by that is I always refer to you as a deep diver. In other words, like you'll take a topic matter and you'll dive into it just with massive detail, with dissecting the whole topic matter, whatever it is. And I know cryptocurrency is one of those things that you've done that with. And not only have you been doing it for as long as I've known you, but just the fact of how it works, what's value, where does the value come from, how mainstream sees it versus how you see it are very uniquely different. And to be honest with you, I trust your view of it more so than I do mainstream's because I know you're passionate about it. And anytime you can get around somebody that's passionate about a subject matter, you know that it's going to be really, really good insight and valuable insight. And so one of the things I want to just ask you, what do you think about the cryptocurrency space from like a global perspective? Is it dead? Is this an old idea and we should put it on the shelf, or is it just kind of in its infancy stages and still growing? And I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Troy. So the basic question, as I understand it, is just globally, kind of where are we? We're obviously in a bear market right now. So I'll add my perspective on this. Crypto, of course, has been around for almost 10 years, cryptocurrency specifically. Mm-hmm. Most people aren't aware of that, but the Satoshi white paper, which introduced Bitcoin to the world, was actually published in shortly after the 2008 housing and banking crisis, which I know you well remember being in the paper business. Mm-hmm. So, at first and for a very long time, no one except for programmers, developers, and kind of crypto geeks. Mm-hmm. I mean that affectionately, by the way.
Sure.
Were even involved and even took notice in it. along about 2013-14, a few newsletter writers, financial letters picked it up, and a few people heard about it, knew about it. But again, it didn't hit mainstream. Mainstream was 2017. Mainstream occurred only a year ago. And when that happened, everybody jumped in all at once because of the claims that were being made about cryptocurrency, okay? And we had people predicting Bitcoin was going to 250,000. One famous gentleman claimed it was going to go to 1 million, or he part of his own anatomy. I'm not joking. I mean, it sounds like that's a joke.
No. I remember those. They were good.
Yeah, he's you and I actually got to meet him at a conference in Dallas. Was that this year? Early this year, wasn't it? February of 2018, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there was a lot of hype.
He's the same in person as he is in his interviews. He is consistent across the board.
He is. He absolutely is. He's the same. And so what happened was, all of a sudden the world woke up and became aware that there was a thing called cryptocurrency, and people were going to get fabulously, or so the story was told, we're going to get fabulously wealthy in overnight. Okay. So this is the 2018 version of the Holland tulip bubble, which occurred in the 1600s, right?
Sure.
And everybody's jumping in on crypto, and most of the people are at that time, and I'm talking through 2017 and early 2018, were still of the mind that we are going to get rich, fabulously wealthy, and we're going to do it overnight. And on that basis, many people who knew nothing about crypto, knew nothing about the technology or the use cases or the legislation, became involved. Okay. And I'm not going to drill down on that a whole lot, other than to say, as you and I were talking back then, you and I were advising some people back then, and you and I, actually, we were advising people back in June of 2017. And, what were we telling people? Look, guys, yes, this is a very good opportunity, but what was the time frame we were giving people? Do you remember?
It was pretty short-lived. I mean, it was one of those things. Well, we had two kind of trains of thoughts. One was short-lived and one was long-term.
Right.
But, yeah.
You said there's a short-term play, but I said the real play was 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
The real play is 3 to 5 years. Be prepared, if you're going to buy any crypto, to buy it, to put it away, to hold it, and to keep it for 3 to 5 years. And the other thing I was on was there has to be a business use case. This isn't a matter of 2,000 crap coins, okay, that basically do nothing. And those, for the most part, are ERC20 tokens. And some of you will know what ERC20 tokens are. Some will not, but it's okay. They're basically junk. Okay, not every single one. Some people are going to call me out. Good, fine, call me out. But almost all of them are dead. In fact, you can just Google dead crypto or dead crypto coins and see what comes up. It'll flash.
There's like a little virtual graveyard of dead.
There is. A tombstone with little flowers growing beside it.
Exactly.
At any rate, so the first wave, and this follows the point that the listeners need to know is this is a normal S-curve adoption. There's nothing unusual about it. It may happen a little bit faster. The phases may happen a little bit faster, but we have this long introductory period in which the only people working on it are the mechanics and the tinkers. If we go back 100 years, 120 years, the guys that invented the horseless carriage, i.e. the automobile, the guys that invented the airplane,
Right.
they were the visionaries, the Teslas, the Edisons.
Mhm.
They were off the main path by a long mile.
Yeah.
And they worked on their technologies for years. And then all of a sudden, boom, everybody jumped in. So that by the year 1910 in the United States, there were 30 or 40 or 50, I've seen as many as 100 different car manufacturers.
Mm.
And everybody was going to get rich building horseless carriages.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the blacksmiths didn't like that. The breeders didn't like that. The politicians didn't like that. There was no one that really liked it, but the technology was so compelling that they used it.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, today, obviously the automobile has, well overtaken the horses as a means of transport. Now, there have been several of those waves like that, and a big wave that was like that occurred in the early 1980s with PCs, with personal computers.
Uh-huh.
So I bought one of the very first IBM PCs, which was an 8086 architecture. This was in the year 1983. I bought one. It was something like $4,000. They weren't even for sale for public. The public couldn't buy them yet, but I had a buddy that was an executive at IBM, and he got me one. Cost $4,000, and you could run a spreadsheet on it called VisiCalc. And back then, everybody said, and I promise I'm gonna get to crypto here.
Never mind, because I love this part because it sets the foundation for where we're going. I love it.
It does, and especially for the younger people that are watching or listening, because they don't have this, they weren't there and they don't have this foundational knowledge.
Sure.
No, everybody asks, what the heck is a PC good for? Because at that time, the mindset was, the norm was a mainframe computer with subfloors and piped-in air conditioning and huge, giant monstrosities of computers, basically built by IBM, that, you had to be a major corporation to own one. So I bought a PC, and one of the very first ones, and that's where I really started getting, and then I just went into the technology. So I started programming, I went into technology, and I'm not going to give you the whole story, but here's the important part for the listeners to know. That went through several iterations, several generations. Computers came and went. Gateway computer, okay? Some may remember Gateway computer.
Yeah.
The TRS-80, okay? Some may remember. The compact computer. And many, many others whose names are lost to history. And no one could think, and everybody said back then, what are computers good for?
Right.
You can do a little stupid VisiCalc on it. Well, looking back today, looking back for the benefit of 30 years of history, 35, that looks like a very stupid statement, doesn't it? So, computers are ubiquitous. You have it right now. You could hold up, I'm holding up an Android device here. This phone literally has something like 10 times or more, 100 times more, the computing power of the computer that landed in 1969, the Apollo mission that put us on the moon.
Oh, wow.
That right there. And we don't even think anything about it. So then along comes crypto. And everybody thinks they're going to get rich. This is last year. Now, guys, this is a window into your future if you will listen. Your future if you are smart about it and don't get too emotional about it, okay? You're going to invest in crypto, I hope you will, and you're going to have some winners and you're going to have some losers. But if you stay with it long term, okay? Today we're awfully short. We think in awfully short time frames. But if you can wrap your mind around, 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you can wrap your mind around 5 years, which I understand sounds like an eternity if you're 20 or 25,
Mm-hmm.
and sounds like yesterday if you're 65. If you can wrap your mind around that 5-year time frame, you have the potential to be very, very successful and perhaps extremely wealthy, like some of the earlier pioneers of another generation were.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like Stephen Jobs, guys like Larry Ellison of Oracle, obviously Bill Gates, Mark Andreessen, who actually wrote the very first Mosaic Netscape browser back in the early 1992, 1993.
Wow.
And so you have to have, for all of you that are thinking about crypto, I'd like you to get the idea of get rich quick. And there are a lot of people out there pitching get rich quick.
Yeah.
I'd really like you to get that out of your head and forget about investing $100 today and having $1 million a year from now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. That's very improbable. Okay. Could it happen? Yeah. Sure. And I could get hit by lightning right now, even though I'm sitting inside and there's not a cloud in the sky.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
But it's not very probable.
Yeah.
So I had to give the listeners that little bit of history to know that this downturn that we are going through right now is a shakeout of the weak hands and the weak coins, the crap coins that don't have a business use or a business case, okay, that aren't solving real world problems. It has to solve a real world problem, Troy, at the end of the day.
Right.
If it doesn't solve a use case that empowers and helps human beings be faster, better, cheaper, and the big word disintermediates and gets rid of all these middlemen, then it's probably not going to succeed as a coin. And so we're in that washout phase today, and a lot of people are, have given up. And actually, you need to have that. You need to have 90% of the players in the market give up. And that's called exhaustion in the market. And then the people that are doing the yeoman's work behind the scenes are continuing to build and acquire during those times. So I'm very familiar with many, many, many investors who are using these downturns and these downs, these so-called bottoms here in the near term to acquire more select crypto or to build crypto-based businesses.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I love downturns in the marketplace because it's really where people become incredibly wealthy because they're buying up what everybody else is selling and getting rid of, and they're stockpiling it. And they'll look like geniuses in about 12 months. And the people will look, wow, they were an overnight success. Yeah. And what I often will, when you can pull somebody aside who's done that and you say, when did you actually buy? And they'll say, well, back 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 12 months ago, whatever it was, that's when I bought. And therefore I reap my harvest here. But most people want to buy 2 days before the harvest blooms, and then they want to reap it. And but you touch on something that's that like bigger, better, faster, right now type model. And as you were talking, I was thinking about silver right now is like $14 an ounce, I think, somewhere around there. Well, Buffett went in and bought up like some ridiculous amount of silver when it was like $3 an ounce. And he looks like a genius today. And that was like, I don't know, like 10 years ago, 8 years ago when he did that. So once again, going and appealing to what you said there. So and this, it was interesting. I was watching a Gary Vee podcast the other day, and he was talking to a group of investors, of crypto investors out of Las Vegas. And the word that he used, and I think it helps, it ties in with what you just said. And the word that he used was patience. You have to have patience. And just like in the dot-com era, when the dot-com bust happened, which is kind of similar to what's happening here, kind of like the crypto bust. There were companies that were birthed out of that dot-com bust that, like Amazon was one of those. There are a few others that I can't seem to remember at this moment, but they grew and they thrived from it, and now Amazon's become a staple of most people's household.
Sure.
So it's one of those things. What do you see? What do you see as being some types of technology or some types of businesses that will thrive on the blockchain going forward?
Well, in general, just as a general statement, the best businesses for any kind of blockchain adaptation are those businesses that are that display either a lot of intermediaries in the chain, okay, or very high costs combined with very low service, okay.
Okay.
Like one I could think of off the top of my head, high cost, low service, are governments, okay. Where there is, the costs are extremely high and there's virtually no customer service. I mean, they don't care about customer service.
Mm-hmm.
So high costs, low service, expensive to deliver, lots of intermediaries. So if you think about businesses like that,
mm-hmm.
you could think of governments come to mind. Real estate comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, an area that you're greatly involved in, personally, and I've been involved in, not to the extent that you have, but to
mm-hmm.
some extent over the years,
mm-hmm.
Where the costs of delivery are generally high, the timelines are extended and drawn out, and the service is low.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance is another great example. So the distribution chain of all of these are, the logistics chain is long and arduous
mm-hmm.
and expensive. Government, real estate, insurance, healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, we're not going to put a doctor on a blockchain, but there are lots of things that we can do to streamline services and to deliver the services faster, better, cheaper. And all of those, mm-hmm. I'm speaking now globally, sure. about massive industries. Mm-hmm. Fintech, okay, mm-hmm. Is another big one. So banking, okay, they're not exactly the same thing, but I'm going to kind of, for this discussion, put them under the same umbrella.
Sure.
So central banking, investment banking,
okay,
venture capital, mm-hmm. all of those are businesses, that you and I are well aware of, either directly or tangentially. And they're all areas where the costs are high, and the services are low. So if we just, for instance, take a look at the old model of venture capital, and this will be changing. This is actually, it's not that it will be changing, it already is changing, and it's changing. It changed a little even before blockchain became kind of not quite a household word, but mm-hmm. a word bandied about the press. Mm-hmm. And that is, old model. You have a business idea.
Right.
You need money. You need capital.
Right.
You outstrip the normal friends and family capital resources, and you outstrip normal regular banking resources. And now you have to go and get some serious capital. So
Sure.
You would put together a pitch deck. You would put together like what's called a one-pager. You'd maybe build a prototype. Everybody here has seen Shark Tank.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd go and you'd sit in front of if you could even get an audience,
Mm-hmm.
you'd go and you'd sit in front of the VCs, and you'd make your pitch, and they'd either say, thumbs up like this, or, like the old Roman circuses, thumbs down like this, and feed you to the lions. Okay?
Sure. Uh-huh.
And that was the drill. And so many fantastic ideas never came to fruition because the VCs, who were the gatekeepers, said no. Okay. In fact, there are more than one, many very successful companies that VCs said no to that today are thriving. Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened was this. We went from the pure VC model to crowdsourced fundraising.
Uh-huh.
In fact, Obama passed legislation, part of which was the omnibus was called the Jobs Act.
Right.
But underneath the Jobs Act, there were new models introduced for raising capital, which lowered the barriers for SEC registration and things like that, right? And that allowed more money to come in. Now, the next wave of that crowdsource and crowdfunding were ICOs, okay? Mm-hmm. So initial coin offerings, where even the crowdsourced model started to fall apart. The problem with it was abused. And many good projects were in fact ICO'd and are successful. To pick a name everybody will know, Ethereum was an ICO. Okay. And so pretty much anybody in the crypto space knows of Ethereum. There's two primary flavors, Ethereum Classic and then what we call Ethereum today. Those are ICOs. So lots of good ICOs, but because it was abused, governments around the world, regulatory bodies around the world have started slamming the doors, which I think is a mistake, but they're slamming the doors on ICOs. So in the United States right now, it's virtually impossible to do. A year ago, you could do an ICO in the United States. Today, 99 out of 100 ICOs are done most of them are done in Asia or Europe, primarily Asia, but they're not done in the United States. Well, that is that, and of course, investors are being protected, and to be quite fair, people are being protected, okay?
Sure.
But that protection comes at a cost.
Yeah.
Okay? And that cost is because government is not able to well delineate and differentiate between the successes and the failures, or the potential successes and failures. They have to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just get rid of them all. So in protecting everybody, massive opportunities in crypto and blockchain are moving out of the United States and into Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, and out of the US. Now, so where are the opportunities? They're just coming full circle to answer your question.
Sure.
The opportunities are still in those major areas that I just mentioned and more. That by far, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's not meant to be limiting in any way. I'm seeing really exciting opportunities and cool opportunities coming down the road, even today.
That's great. So as you were talking, I was trying to pull up an article that I came across a couple days ago, and McAfee was talking about how one of the core ingredients for crypto becoming so powerful in the future is that the exchanges, like we know, like Coinbase, are going to basically go away and or be less than ideal, and people will move away from it more into an independent type model where they're storing their coins in wallets offline, some online or digital wallets of some kind, and exchanging as in from you to me, not using a Coinbase model. And he said the reason that is because Coinbase is, one, the people behind it are getting ridiculously wealthy. But on top of it, they're not really protecting the people in their client base. In other words, they're giving out their information, they're doing this, they're doing that, and so it's the polar opposite of what it was set up for, and so people will seek out that privacy factor to regain that somehow, some way. And if it takes going away from those, what do you call them? What do you refer to them? Like centralized exchanges, in more of a private model. He says, and at that point, there's no way to shut it down because you'll end up with 20 million wallets around the globe. So how do they go in and shut that down? And they can't. They really can't. So it ties into what you were saying. I know we've got you and I. The thing that I have to watch with you and I is that we could go on for days, and our wives love it, but it also probably drives them crazy at the same time.
I'm gonna listen to part 2.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have a part 2 and 3 and so on, because these are the things that I love about the space. So we're you and I, and there's a lot of other people that were invested in Tasos on the beginning days of the pre-ICO opportunity, and now that that's gone through the beta and now we're to the main net, and how smooth that has gone, once we kind of got the horse to the track, where do you see that going in the future of that?
Well, I am, to put it mildly, a Tasos enthusiast. My viewpoint is this. Well, first, let's just acknowledge what you just said. Tasos is a brand new blockchain, something that we don't see frequently anymore. When I say it's brand new, I'm talking about from the foundational layers of the blockchain itself are brand new and built from scratch, with some very specific goals in mind. I think we should actually do another session on just that, because I don't want to go there in this session, or we're going to run out of time. But sure. It's brand new, okay? And it was launched with almost zero glitches at all. It went beta on June 30th, and there was about so since then till September 17th, when it went mainnet, there was about a 1 hour period, okay, where there were some hiccups on the chain itself. That was fixed in 1 hour. No transactions were lost. No coin was lost. The chain slowed down to a crawl, and actually, I'm actually not sure if it totally stopped at one point, but it was a 15 to 60 minute event. That's unheard of. That's unheard of. Yeah. When we take a look at other chains that have launched this year, for instance, EOS, I mean, that was one train wreck after another, lasting months. Okay. Wow. So Tasos didn't do that. Well, that's kind of to its credit. But what do I really see? And so Tasos, out of the gate, I think today, I haven't looked today, but out of the gate, Tasos just rocketed past basically 1,500. So if you go to crypto market, coinmarketcap.com, CoinMarketCap, there's like 1,500 coins on there.
Mm-hmm.
Tasos in 2 months is number 16.
Yeah.
Number
awesome.
16.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
And I think it's going to go much higher. So, and there's some reasons for that. So I am an enthusiast on Tasos. It introduces some brand new and some needed technology to the blockchain. Let's talk about that another time.
Mm-hmm.
A couple buzzwords, and I'll say the buzzwords here,
Mm-hmm.
but I know most people won't know what that is. It's okay because we can cover that another time. Formal verification, okay, Turing complete, on-chain governance, smart contracts, contracts written in a formally verifiable language, OCaml.
Okay.
And so that's the technology side of it. But the use case side of it makes Tasos extremely good for the kinds of apps and the kinds of businesses and problems that I spoke about earlier in our segment here. Okay. So it makes it highly adaptable to problems in government, healthcare, real estate, insurance, fintech, etc., because it's bulletproof. And there are very few. Tasos is not the only one, okay, but it's one of a handful that can compete in that space. And it's that adaptation by major corporations and hopefully eventually by governments and maybe even central banks, who knows, that one's a little bit far out there, I admit, but it's those kind of applications coming down the track, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, that I think that Tasos has a very good chance, a very good opportunity to be a top 2 or 3 or top 5 coin in the next 3 to 5 years.
Nice.
So it would be displacing a lot of other coins that are out there. And even coin is a misnomer, okay? The token is kind of what we exchange value for, but the real strength is in the blockchain itself.
What I love about the Tasos blockchain is that it's one, they've learned a lot of mistakes from everybody else's launches.
Yes.
That's number one. So, when you go to market, people always think, well, you want to be the first to market. And in the financial world, you really don't want to be the first to market. And you want to let some other people go ahead, learn from what they did, and then kind of come back and redo it. AKA Microsoft being a perfect example, where IBM was first to market with Windows, and Bill came along and said, I'll take it from here. Thank you very much. And went on and created something huge. And you've seen that with even Amazon, Walmart, and there are other companies that got in the retail sector. But that's what I love about it. And I see it as being almost like, to me, it's like a Word document on a computer where you get the plain version. But that Word document can be a simple memo to somebody you love and you care about, or it could be a Lord of the Rings novel. It could go either way, and it's been used for both. And so, to me, that just gives unlimited possibilities with this new foundation. Not to mention, I'm in love with the team behind it. When you've got the caliber of people, that's one of the things that attracted me to the Tasos as a whole. Like, who are the people behind this, and what do they really stand for? And because they don't like failure. When you're at that level of success, you don't like failure, and so you're going to go figure out how to avoid or to correct things when they happen. And there were some challenges after the IPO.
Yes.
issues, but they solved them. Like they didn't curl up and stick their head in the sand. They got in there and they threw more money at it and solved the problem, and here we are today. So it's good. It's good. Well, my friend, as always, man, I love being here with you. I love talking and catching up. And what people don't realize before we started recording is we spent 10, 15 minutes just chatting about catching up and life and family and the hurricanes that have kind of rolled through there, Raleigh and North Carolina. So I'm glad that you're safe. I'm glad that you're sound. Your family's safe. So that's what's always most important. But thank you so much for spending some time here today. And I know that you've got you have your exchange website, and then you also have your crypto register website as well, where people can go. And why don't you give those out so that they can follow you there?
Hey, Troy, thank you very much. It's I appreciate that. So if you guys want to check out Tasos, it's very hard for U.S. investors to take dollars and buy Tasos. But come on and check out iBuyTezos, IBUYTEZOS.com. So myself and my partners run an OTC trade desk there where you can buy or sell Tasos.
Nice.
So check it out. And we also have a site called the Crypto Register, which is gaining traction. It is a compilation news site which contains curated news on crypto from across the internet. That's the cryptoregister.com. Check it out.
Nice. Yeah, definitely go there and check out those two sites. And like Brian said, if you're interested in buying or selling Tasos, go to iBuyTezos.com, right?
That's it.
And then cryptoregister.com as well. Two great sites that support the industry very well and bring a lot of updated content and insight to ongoing changes and developments in the industry. So definitely a man to follow in the space, and will continue to be there as the industry grows. So that's, like I said, I love Brian because he loves to deep dive and he's passionate about it. And anytime you can get around somebody that's passionate about a subject matter, you'll be pointed in the right direction. So thank you so much for today, Brian. I appreciate your time and your insight and your wisdom. We're definitely going to have you back sooner versus later to dive into the blockchain side of it. As you mentioned, I think that's going to be valuable as well. So with that being said, everybody have a great day. Have a great week. Thank you so much. Take care, Brian.
Thank you for listening and being a part of the thriving investor community. Please share this podcast with a friend or a business associate that you know, like you, is interested in learning from top mentors in the non-traditional investing, real estate, crypto, blockchain, buying debt, and so much more. Troy wants to give you a gift, so go to troyfullwood.com/book to get your free copy of Troy's latest book, The Power of Paper. Again, that's troyfullwood.com/book to get your free gift. Go check out the latest episodes and shows at the Thriving Investor community at thethriving investor.com.